Cool. All right, we are rocking and rolling now. All right, so guys, I want to start off by telling the story about how I actually met Kash. I think I spoke about this on one of the other calls prior. After I got back from our Arate Syndicate event, and I was sitting on a bus, on a transportation bus, taking us from one of the events back to the hotels. And I'm sitting there, and I'm on my Instagram, and I see Ed Milet's story, right? So I'm going to click on this and see what he's up to, right? And I see Ed Milet, and for those of you that don't know Ed Milet, I post a lot of his content. Long story short, the guy was one of the, I think, the 50th wealthy, the top 50 wealthiest people under 50 in the country. One of the most, influential entrepreneurs to date right now. And I was at an event, and he was on a private jet. And I'm like looking, and I'm like, that person looks familiar. One of 5 people that are on this private jet with Ed. And I turned around, I'm like, that's him. So then I was like, wait, I tapped him on his leg. I was like, is this you right here? And then sure enough, we started getting into the talking. So then I get back, this is after the event, and throughout the event, I kind of chatted with him a little bit. But what I always tell you guys, it's what happens after, right? Everything. When you're going to networking events, when you're investing in to go to these events that are in another state, whatever that is, you cannot judge it based off of you just showing up. That is the first part, right? But then what I did was I connected with him, which is what I coach you guys on social media, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, wow, he's sharing stages with John Maxwell. He was, I highlight David Meltzer. He was on his podcast. And then I was like, I really dug into him. I'm like, what an incredible person. What an incredible entrepreneur. I reached out to him. He was nothing but generous. He was like, dude, I would love to be to help and kind of share what I've learned through this community. And the funny thing is, I thought I knew a lot about him, but he just sent me over some bullet points. Man, was I wrong. So I want to share with you some bullet points, and then I'm going to introduce him, and he's going to kind of share his inspirational story, because there's techniques that we teach you guys to do. And this past month, we did a very high-level focus on making calls, growing your business, growing your relationships through using the phones. But a lot of times, people do not execute these things because they give themselves so many excuses why not to do things that they know grow their business. And maybe there's mind blocks in their head, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to hear the word no, or this is just too hard. So the cool thing is about this, and I want to set you up for success, when you hear his story, what you're going to do is you're going to get a dose of perspective, right? So when you give yourself the excuses to not execute the stuff that we're all being coached on and that we're all sharing with each other, this is going to give you that dose of perspective to where, like, listen, if this guy can come here and make it and do what he's done without speaking English and coming from another country, what excuses am I giving myself today to not do the things that I'm being coached on, and that's holding me back from being where I truly want to be? So this is some of his bullet points, which is unbelievable. So for the most part, born in Iran, came to the U.S. without speaking English, graduated with a civil engineer degree, became an entrepreneur 13 years ago, became homeless in 2 years. In 7 years, had 6 offices and 400 licensed advisors, making 7 figures residually. Remember that word, residually. That's an important word. Currently, we have 12 locations and 650 advisors. Associate producer of the movie Think and Grow Rich. If you guys haven't read this book, if you haven't found out about this book, please do yourself a favor and Google it and buy it and read it and YouTube it, whatever you can do. This is a life-changing book, and it's a historical book. Has a charity called All for One. This is another kicker that I didn't know. Bought Radio Shack and Pier 1 in bankruptcy last year with Ty Lopez. Those of you that aren't familiar with Ty Lopez, he's a ridiculously good marketer, right? So, and now there's probably a million other things that he does ridiculously good. But this is just a list of what our guest has done. So if this doesn't inspire you to plug in, then I don't know what should, right? So Kash, thank you so much for taking this time to be with us, my friend. I'm going to shut up right now. And for the most part, we'll start off with you just sharing your story, because it is incredible. And I know you're unbelievable with training on sales and coaching and just, sharing how you help others. So the floor is yours, my friend. Thank you so much for hopping on.
Hey, buddy, thanks for having me on. I'm fired up and I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, you guys. Seriously, it's an honor for me to be here. And I'm fired up and I'm excited. And I just want you guys to know it's awesome to have someone like Devin that cares so much. Every time I'm talking to him, he's talking about you guys, and he wants you to learn this, and he wants you to learn this, and I want him to get this, and I want him to get this. And I see his hustle. And as we're at Arete, he's like going around getting to people's mindsets and thinking, and just really seeing how he can serve you guys. And so when he asked, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Of course I will, because he just has such a beautiful heart. And you meet some people and you're like, "Man, this guy is a double stud," right? So it's I'm so grateful to know him and be able to call him as a friend. And I hope you guys appreciate him. Sometimes when we're listening to someone too much, sometimes even though there's nothing I'm going to tell you here that he hasn't already told you. As a matter of fact, anybody remember Socrates? Anybody know who Socrates was? Anybody remember who Plato was? So Socrates was the teacher of Plato. Okay. And one of the things that Socrates told Plato, he said this. He said, the greatest lessons in life are learned. Let me repeat it again. The greatest lessons in life are learned when you relearn something you already knew. You just got it? This is Socrates. I didn't say it.
Wow.
Okay. He says the greatest lessons in life are when you relearn something you already knew. So a lot of this stuff I'm going to share with you, probably Devin told you, and we'll have fun. So thanks for having me. I'll give you a little background. I wish we had enough time. I would have loved to kind of go around and kind of get to know you guys, because obviously it's not about me. My goal here is to be able to add some sort of a value. That's what drives me so much. And we'll talk it then, see if you achieved it. Yes? Say yes anyway, even though I can't hear you. Okay, cool. So like Devin was saying, I grew up in Iran, and I didn't speak a word of English when we came here in 1999. And I was a very shy kid. I was kind of like that kid that everybody made fun of going to school. So I was the kid everybody kind of throw their backpack around, and I was kind of an awkward kid. And so I had a lot of self-confidence issues, and I didn't think I was good enough. But we thought we'd come to America and we're going to become rich. That's kind of was the idea. I mean, if anybody not from here, that's kind of like the idea. We thought we'd come in and it's one of the movies. We just walk into it, and the road is paved with gold, right? So next thing you know, we come in here and I have no clue how anything and everything works, like nothing. I mean, kind of tell you how crazy this was. Not only I didn't speak a word of English, I didn't know anything about culture. I remember one time I talked to my aunt, and my aunt was like, "Hey, I had one person here, was my aunt, and she's like, when you go to the streets, if you go behind the red light and if the hand's up like this, you got to make sure you don't pass." This is like kind of like the education I was getting as I'm coming here. So this one time I go walking around, it's an empty street, and I'm sitting, and she's like, "You dude, the cops are gonna come and put you in jail." I'm like, shoot, man, this is hardcore. So this is like an empty street. I go behind this light, and the hand was up. So I'm standing behind the light for 5 minutes. Nothing's happening. I'm waiting 10 minutes, nothing's happening. 20 minutes, nothing's happening. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should go backwards. So I end up not crossing. I went back, and my aunt's like, "Where were you? Why did it take you so long?" I was like, "Well, the red light had this sign, and I couldn't pass. It wouldn't change." And she's like, "Did you press the button, for it to, for it to change?" I was like, you didn't tell me that, right? So, I mean, literally, you said hello to me. I pretty much gave you 2 thumbs up. And when you don't know that much English, there's not that many jobs available. So my first job was working in a car wash, vacuuming cars. So everybody started talking to me in Spanish, and I was like, "Well, I don't know that one either," So And then from there, I kind of, I guess in my mind, I worked my way up. I learned a couple of words. Can you make me a co-host so I can share the screen? I'm gonna show you a picture. This was a few years ago. I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna show you this picture right here. I'm gonna show you some few pictures here.
I clicked multiple participants.
Okay, perfect. I can see it. Here we go. So this is a picture when I worked at Subway. So here was me a few years ago. Look at that handsome man right there. So that was so I started learning. At that time I just knew pickles and tomatoes, and you want 6-inch or a foot long. That was kind of pretty much it. Anytime somebody wanted to have a conversation, it would pretty much end right there. So, yeah, that was me. So then when I came here, everybody said, okay, if you want to become successful, you got to go to school, you got to get a good degree. And, by the way, they say the worst thing an entrepreneur could do, by the way, I'm assuming everybody here is an entrepreneur. The worst thing an entrepreneur could do is to take advice from successful employees. The worst thing an entrepreneur could do is to take advice from successful employees. Now, I didn't know any entrepreneurs. Everybody I knew that were successful employees. So they all said what? Go get a degree, go to school, learn English. I was like, okay. So I start learning English. I go to Pasadena City College. Then I transferred to USC. And I just took all the math classes because they didn't have any English in it. So, and I became a civil engineer. Started working as an engineer. I liked my job, but I hated having a job. I had a limited income. I was like, this is not the American dream. This is the American nightmare. Back home, we had chauffeurs, and so, somebody did all of this stuff for me. And now I got to do all this stuff myself. This sucks. And just, I wasn't happy. So one day I was driving on PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, and any of you guys who are from California, that I'm from California. And I'm looking at all these houses. Every house is like $5 million. Every house is like $10 million on that road. And it's not like there's one house or two, or there's millions of them. So I'm thinking, I don't know if any of you guys ever wanted to do this. Like, I just wanted to knock on people's door and be like, excuse me, what do you do? Yeah. I want to do what you do. Okay. I'm like, screw passion, like, forget this passion stuff. What do you do? Okay. You sell pens. I sell pens. What's the thing you do? I'll do whatever it is you do. So I found out majority of these guys, they have their own businesses. I said, okay, I got to figure out to start my own business. Now, I don't know anything about business. So we had a land in Iran. We're like, all right, I'm going to sell this land. We're going to come here, buy some business. So I started going to looking at Quiznos and Subway and 7-Eleven, gas station, buying a farmer's agency, starting a Remax, going to multi-level marketing companies, you name it, starting a construction. I mean, starting an app. I mean, I kind of looked into a lot of these things where I met two people by a vending machine, complete strangers. I was taking a communication class to work on my English, and I meet these two guys. They're talking to each other. They're not even talking to me about some class about money. I had no clue how money worked, and I figured if I'm going to have my own business, I need to know how money works. So I mean, that was just common sense, which you guys know is not that common. I mean, how everybody wants to become financially independent, but they don't want to learn the rules of money and how money works and how you grow your money. It's not about making money. It's about keeping it and growing it. So I go talk to this guy and I said, excuse me, I literally invited myself and I butt into their conversation, and I'm a very shy person. So the reason I did it was because I was taking this communication class, and the guy who was doing the communication class, he was like, he challenged us that day. He's like, you got to go out of your own way. You got to talk to people. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go out of my way. So I go talk to these guys. I say, hey, can I come to this? So they say, yeah, what are you doing? So they invited me. And, where I come from in Iran, we don't have a stock market. You buy a house, you buy cash. There's no credit. It's a complete different financial system. To kind of give you guys an idea, when you buy a car in Iran, after you buy it, the price of it goes up. okay? Because it's more like antiques. So when I came to America, people are like, oh, you buy a car, the price goes down. I'm like, what the heck are these guys talking about? Like, it made no sense to me. So I said, I got to figure out this financial thing. So I literally invited myself, and I came into this financial education seminar. And they said, you know, we do free educations on Saturdays. If you want, you can come. I'm like, hey, that sounds great. So I started going there. At the same time, I'm looking at all these different businesses we're going to buy. I'm kind of give you a story how I met Ed. So basically, I'm going there. I'm talking to my boss, who was 30 years older than me. He's a Caucasian guy. He's 30 years older, got the gray hair. And I'm like, and he kind of seemed like he knew how money worked. He's talking to me. He's like, Kash, how are you learning this stuff? I'm like, I go to this class. So he's like, can I come? I'm like, sure. So I invited the guy just like this. He's like, hey, I'll come in. Can I get your opinion on this? As a matter of fact, that's what I asked him. So he ended up coming in. He ended up learning this stuff about money. He's like, man, if I knew this stuff when I was your age, I'd be a multimillionaire. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And he ended up becoming a client, and I wasn't even licensed in the financial industry. So the guy who was teaching the class, his name was Sean. And he's like, Kash, if you had your license for sending that referral, you could have get paid $4,000. I was like, really? I was like, I'll get my license. So that's how I got licensed in finance. Had no idea want to be in finance at all, like zero interest. I'm looking at all these different businesses. This is 2007, okay? End of 2007, 08. And I wanted to be in construction. That was, you know, my passion. So I started, we got a little bit of money. We started building these houses. So we kind of built about 7 houses. And obviously all of you guys know what happened in 2008, right? So basically all of them went foreclosed, all 7 of them. We couldn't sell them. So that wasn't working. So this guy, Sean, invites me to an event. And at this event, I met Ed. So how many of you guys know who Ed is? Okay. So I met Ed, and then he's like, Kash, why don't you just do this business? I'm like, I don't know. Finances, it's not really, my passion. I want to make business deals. I want to buy companies. I want to do real estate. When you come from Iran, just kind of like your mindset is like real estate. If I can't touch it, it's not real. Like that was kind of like my mindset. Okay. So Ed starts laughing. And I'm like, why are you laughing? Ed's like, Kash, do you think the guy who has 10 McDonald's has a passion about selling hamburgers? I said, no. It's like, look, it's not about the financial stuff. You're not here to sell something. You're here to build a company. I was like, I got it. So those of you guys who, for example, familiar with real estate, if you look at RE/MAX, for example, there's 3 parties in RE/MAX. There's the agent, there's the broker. Agent is the person who sells the house, correct? The real estate agents, they sell the house, boom, boom, boom. Then there's the main broker who overrides the agents, make a commission off of them. They teach them trainings. And then there's the real entrepreneurs. The real entrepreneur is the guy who has 10 offices. They have 10 RE/MAXes. Do they think differently? Yes or no? The guy who has 10 RE/MAXes completely thinks different than the guy who's selling the house. So Ed started teaching me basically how to think like the real entrepreneur. I was like, okay. So I started getting it. And I said, okay, I'm going to start a business. So I start this business thing.
Kash,
and then
pause you real quick because there's something that I want everybody to catch. You keep on doing a pattern that is so important for people not to miss. Every time, do you see when Kash is talking, whenever he has a thought, he goes out and he executes. He does it. He digs into it. Somebody gives him advice. His college professor or his communication, you got to go out and talk to people. What did he say? He was like, well, they told me I have to go out and talk to people. What did he do? He went out and talked to people. What did it lead to? An opportunity. The stuff that we talk about week in and week out, showing up to these calls. At the end of the day, the small disciplines that we always talk about, the small hinges that swing the big doors, these are the small disciplines. Executing, doing them, like not knowing, not being able to speak English. Who cares? Like, I love the immigrant mindset because they don't care what anybody thinks. You tell me what I got to do, and I'm going to go do it. And I'm going to keep doing this or switch it until I get there. And I'm not worried if there's no plan B. It's I am going to make it or else I got to leave. That's the mindset that everybody on this call has to have. When you hear something, you got to develop that small discipline to do what he does and execute and try. And if it doesn't work, execute again a different way. And then there won't be a coincidence in 10 years from now, you're not telling stories like this to people. So I just want people to understand everything that you're talking about. The pattern is you execute and you do it. You don't just sit on the information. So continue on. I appreciate that.
What Devin's talking about is being coachable. I was very coachable, and coachability requires a lot of common sense and really putting our ego away. And that's really the thing. So the way I always looked at it when I looked at a coach, it's just like investing in mutual funds. Okay. Let me kind of give you an idea. Imagine, for example, you have a mutual fund that gives a high return, but it has a high fee. Okay. You guys with me? So they have a mutual fund that has a high return. There's a high fee. Then there's another mutual fund that gives high return, but it has a low fee. Okay. So in other words, imagine there's a mutual fund that gives you 20% in return, but it has a 2% fee. And then there's a mutual fund that gives you 20% return, but it has a 1% fee. How many guys, you guys with me on this? And then there's another mutual fund that gives you 5%, but has a 1.5% fee. And then there's a mutual fund that gives you negative 10%. Okay. And they have a 2% fee. How many guys with me on this? Okay. I give you 4 mutual funds. Now, if you wanted to invest your money, where would you want to put your money in? You will want to put it in the highest return with the lowest fee. Would you agree? Okay. So it's the same things in leadership, and it's the same thing in coaching, because so I understood this about my coaches and my mentors, and I understood I was a mutual fund in their business. I wanted to be a mutual fund that was a high return with a low fee. Okay. Instead of, because, you know, a lot of people are mutual funds with a very negative return, and they also have a high fee. They're the ones who complain, and they don't listen, they don't execute. So when I started learning this, when I started getting coaching from these mentors of mine, I said, you know what? I'm going to be the most coachable guy. I'm going to be with the lowest maintenance, because there's a lesson here. So in management, if you're in management, the management in squeaky wheel gets all the oil. Okay. But in leadership, squeaky wheel should get no oil whatsoever. Now, there's 2 lessons in here. So if you're in some sort of a coaching thing, right? Like for example, here, you want to be the highest return with the lowest fee. Okay. But at the same time, if you're building an organization, if you're building a company, who should you spend most of your time with? So management people, they spend a lot of time with people who have most problems. They're coming with you with the problems, versus in leadership, you should basically ignore that part and then work with people who give you the highest return and the lowest maintenance. And they're the ones who don't even want your help, because they're like, they don't even want to take your time, because they're like, oh, I know you're busy, Devin. Like, you know, but they do this stuff. So if you're in leadership, you want to be like, hey, that's the guy I want to work with. You got to go find them, bring them in, and start spending time with them. So that's basically what Devin's talking about. So I learned this principle early on in the business. I said, okay, I'm going to do this. Now, that being said, you have to understand that. So I used to think there was success and there was failure. I'm sure Devin talks about this. And then I found out that success and failures go together. If you ain't failing, you ain't succeeding. So I understood, though, I must fail to succeed. So guess what happened when I started in the business? I went like like this. So I started failing so bad. I didn't know anything about sales. I couldn't close a door if my life depended on it, let alone selling something, right? I didn't know anything about management. I couldn't speak in front of people. I had a confidence of a peanut. So very much, I gotta lead nothing. So I go in there, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna build an organization. And I started trying to building a team, and I can give you a lot of advice on building a team, though. And boom, somebody would be like, yeah, I'm excited, and they would do nothing. So basically, I went from being an engineer, having a bunch of money, a little bit of money saved up, having a couple of houses, having these projects, to at some point, when 2008 happened, I lost the houses. I was paying out of pocket. So I ran out of savings, ran out of the money that I had saved. And I literally moved into my office because I had to keep my office. It was one office, it was an executive office in somebody else's office. I literally moved into the office, and my car got repoed, for example, all this stuff. So I literally lost everything. I had no money. I had basically holes in my shoe, and all my socks had the hole on the same spot. So just so you know, one of my biggest fear was going to people's houses, because then if they had me take my shoes off because he had a hole, and then everybody would see it, I was like, I hope it's one of those houses I don't have to take my shoes off. So these were like my biggest fears. And I literally went completely broke, where I had to take showers. I didn't have enough money to get a gym membership and get a shower and gym membership. So I would basically take showers at a Taco Bell. There was a Taco Bell next to the executive suite. So at night, I would go sleep in it before everybody comes in. And in the morning, I would get out and I would go to the Taco Bell. And, anybody wanted some advice, let me know. I tell you the exact formula how you take a shower. I'm talking about a full body shower, okay? Send me a message on Instagram. I'll tell you how you take a shower. So I would go in there, boom, 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 15 minutes, da, da, da. I would do a whole body shower in Taco Bell. And I did that for a whole year. I took a shower in a Taco Bell. And, everybody always asks me, Kash, why did you not quit during that point? It was very simple why I didn't quit, because there was a couple of reasons. One, I had mentors and I knew where they were. I knew they were making money, and I knew they had time, and I knew they were happy, because, there's a lot of times people that make a lot of money, but they don't have any time. There's people who have a lot of time, they don't make any money. There's few people who have money and have time, but they're not happy. So where's the ultimate source of happiness? Ultimate source of happiness only comes from two places. One, when you're growing in life. Anytime you're growing in life, you're struggling, you're growing, you're happy. Number two is when you're helping other people. Those are the two things that makes you happy. At the end of the day, these are the only two sources of, and the ultimate purpose of life is to be happy. So I saw my mentors who were not only successful and had time, had money, and they were wealthy, like Ed and few other people, but they were also just happy and they had a fulfilled life. So I said, okay, all I got to do, stick around. All I got to do, stick around, and eventually it's going to happen. And I got to know where I'm going. So I remember this one time, I made one sale. And this is when he talks about coachability. So let me tell you this. So I said, I made like $2,500. So, and that's all the money I had. So I took that money and I went to Ritz-Carlton. I went to Ritz-Carlton in Dana Points, and it's $700 a night. Okay. This is when I was completely broke. And I literally go in there. I said, okay, I need to treat myself like I'm wealthy, because I heard this from a mentor of mine. There's a guy named Steve Siebold. I highly suggest you guys read his stuff. He has one of the greatest book of all time. It's called, by the way, Devin, I don't know if you read this book.
It's called, what's his name?
It's Steve Siebold. He's a mental toughness coach. And he has a book called 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. The best book I ever read in my entire life. And I read, this is how I learned from Think and Grow Rich, from that book. And what he does, in every chapter, it compares people in the middle class thinking with the world class thinking. Categorize people in 5 categories. The world class are people that are not just making money, but they're happy, they're making an influence, they're 5% of the population. Then there's the upper class, where they're making money, but they have a lot of ego. Then there's the middle class, which is the majority of population. They're growing, they want to become better, but they're not where they want to be. And then there's the lower class and the poverty class. So in this book, it compares the middle class with the world class and how they think. So this guy, in a way, became a mentor of mine through books. So I want to give you this story so you guys, I'm gonna put some perspective around this. So I said, okay, and as a matter of fact, I'll show you a little quick video of them from you, and this will really help you put some stuff around this. So I read this book, and he's like, you know what, you got to have a clear vision. And do you know exactly what your vision is look like? Because I found out the only reason people quit in business, there's only one reason people quit in business. There's not two, it's three. It's really one reason. And that one reason is because they're only focused on their current situation and their current circumstances instead of focusing on where they're going, instead of having clarity on where they're going. They're not focused on there, they're focused on their current situation. So I said, okay, where am I going? So I went to this Ritz-Carlton. I took Steve Siebold's book. I took John Maxwell's book. I was telling John this a couple of weeks ago, and he has a book called Putting Your Dreams to the Test. So I take the book, Putting Your Dreams to the Test book. These were my virtual mentors. And by the way, and I knew Ed at the time, but Ed was like a distant guy. I literally talked to him one time. That was it. I saw him at an event that he was doing, and I met him. He was a mentor of Sean. That's kind of I met Ed, and we didn't have the close relationship that we have now. It was none of that stuff. So I take these two books, I go with me, and I turn my phone off for 2 days, and I wrote down my perfect dream life. I said, okay, what time, everything with exact details, like what time am I waking up?
Don't miss this gold. If you're listening,
Okay.
this is a very important part.
What time am I waking up? What sound am I waking up to in my dream life? When I put my foot on a floor, is it a heated floor? Okay, or is it a carpet floor? What kind of, when I see the view, what's the view? What's it smell like? Okay, what's it look like? How does my wife look like? What's the type of relationships? What's the house look like? What kind of car? If I have no limitation, what's the car I'm driving? What am I having for breakfast? What's my conversation over breakfast?
Kash, can I give a quick example?
Yeah.
So yesterday, for those that are in the deep roots, if Tim Jennings is on this call, when I was talking to you guys yesterday on the call, I was giving you an example. And when I gave the analogy, I said, all right, let's just focus on Tim Jennings' custom shore house that's getting built. We're on the deck of the shore house, looking out into the ocean, looking over the beach into the ocean, having a conversation. Why do you think I so easily went into that? Because when I do my visualization, I know the importance of this. Like, you got to smell it, touch it, feel it. And that's why I got so specific with that analogy when I was doing our coaching call for the Harvest Deep Roots community. If you guys remember that, and it's literally exactly what Kash is explaining now, how in depth and detail you should not be afraid to be, because you may just hit that mark if you have the balls or the stones or the cojones or the guts to say it. So continue on, Kash. I just want to
thank you. So yeah, I wrote all of those stuff in details, in everything. Who are my friends? Who am I associating with? Let me tell you this. I put a picture of Ed Milet right there. Okay. I met Ed one time. Okay. I said, okay, Ed and he's going to be a mentor of mine, but not only that, we will be business partner together. I said, look, he's my business partners. We're going to work together. Okay. I barely met the guy one time at the time. Okay. That when he told me that analogy. And then I put Steve Siebold's picture. I said, okay, I'm going to be a friend with Steve Siebold. Then I put John Maxwell's picture. I said, okay, me and John, we're going to do events together. This is completely ridiculous. Okay. Everything I'm telling you is like completely ridiculous to put on that picture. Okay. The dream cars, all that. I said, okay, if I had all the money, then what do I want to do? I said, okay, I want to have this foundation. Okay. What do I want to do with kids? I want to teach them the stuff I didn't know. I want to teach them entrepreneurship. I want to teach them leadership. I want to teach them about money and how that stuff works. So one of the guy I knew, one of my heroes, he's the guy who started a foundation called All for One. And I said, you know what? Me and Jeff, we're going to be partner in All for One, and we're going to go around the world. We're going to be building orphanages together. So I said, okay. So I put all of this stuff together, and then I came back, and obviously it wasn't all easy, right? I was just slapped failure. But every time I failed, I knew I was supposed to be failing. I got excited about failing. Okay. Can you get excited about getting smashed? Okay. Because that's how it felt like. I literally had anxiety attacks. I was like, oh my God, why can't I breathe right now? So I was so scared. And I had to learn all of these techniques how to control my mind, how to be mentally tough, how to attract stuff to myself. All of these things I had to learn. So when I read the book Think and Grow Rich, I was like, okay, this is a great idea. You got to write a goal, you got to read it, and you got to visualize it. I said, okay, I did that. It didn't work. Okay. So now one of my mentors, who's actually Ed Milet's mentor, his name is Rich Thawley. He's a very private guy. Nobody really knows him. He's a billionaire, very super, ultra wealthy guy. And he's like, Cash, like he wasn't telling me this. He was in a group setting. He was like, you got to write these books and you got to believe that it's already happened. And I remember I went to this one meeting with him and I got so pissed off at him because I was so frustrated. I was broke. I didn't have money. Everything was sucking, right? And I said, okay, here's what I'm just going to prove him wrong, that this Think and Grow Rich stuff doesn't work. It's a bunch of baloney. It's a bunch of BS. This is how serious I was. I'm like, I'm going to do this thing every single day. I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to feel like it's already happened. But I'm just to prove these guys that this shit doesn't work. Excuse my language. Okay. So I wrote these goals. So at the time, I wrote a goal. I said, okay, I'm going to make $50,000 in 1 month. I was like, that was a lot of money back then to me. Okay. To make 50,000 in a month. It was like big. Okay. So I wrote this goal. I said, okay, I'm going to make 50,000. I will read it every single morning and I will read it every night. And I'll be like, God, I know I cannot to do this. I mean, I just know it. So let's just be over that part. Okay. I'm just going to feel like it's happened. So good luck. I'm just going to do the feeling that these thing has achieved. I'm just going to feel like it's done and it's all gone. And then you just do the work. And you would be surprised, you guys. I did this every single morning and every single night, just like a crazy person. So I would do it every morning and every night. Guess what happened, Devin, at the end of that month? I made $73,000 that month. And I was like, what the F? Right? I'm like, what did just happen here? Okay. And it just kind of completely shifted my perspective. So then I said, okay, can I apply to different things? And I said, okay. And I got some start attention, getting Ed's attention. I said, okay, I'm going to be the number one guy. I'm going to be the MVP in Ed's organization, in the entire company. And I started reading it. Same thing. Guess what happened? We became the MVP out of all of these guys, and we started having being number one in every aspect of our business. We're in the financial business, and I started thinking outside the box. Ideas came, and we really revolutionized the way basically financial information, which I'll tell you guys, get distributed to the masses. This is kind of how this came. And we basically created an Uber we combined Uber. Think about Amazon and Uber. We combined the model from Amazon and Uber, applied it to money and finance. Nobody's ever done it before. Boom, things blew up. And things started happening like crazy. We started building partnerships with all sorts of different people. All of these things started happening. Next thing you know, I said, okay, as I was learning these principles, I also always listened to Bob Proctor. Any of you guys know who Bob Proctor is? Bob Proctor is the guy who teaches the principles on Think and Grow Rich. So then I said, okay, here's the deal. I put a picture of Bob Proctor on my mirror. I said, look, I'm going to meet Bob Proctor. We're going to do a project together. What the F, right? So next thing you know, and I'm reading this every day. Next thing you know, I'm at an event. I meet a guy named John, who's partnering up with Bob Proctor to make a movie on Think and Grow Rich. They're looking for investors. I said, okay, hey, I'm in, right? So I end up becoming partner. And with John, we go to Napoleon Hill Foundation. Nobody ever made a movie out of Think and Grow Rich, you guys. Think and Grow Rich is one of the top 5 best-selling books of all time in the history. Number 1 is Bible. And then there's Harry Potter, and then Hobbit, and then it goes Think and Grow Rich.
And Harry Potter,
crazy?
Really?
Yeah.
Man, they're all
it's crazy. Nobody ever made a movie. So we go get the rights of the movie. Then we start reaching out to a lot of these guys like Grant Cardone and Barbara Corkin from Shark Tank and all of these guys, and we put this whole crew together, and we go talk to Andy Garcia, who is was the, you guys know Andy Garcia, right? He's like Godfather 3, you know? So Andy Garcia narrated our movie. So he gets involved in this project. Now, boom, like we have a movie with Bob Proctor. And then all of this stuff start happening. All for One. Ed and I became closer. He started mentoring me closer. Then he's like, hey, I want to kind of get him back into the business. I don't have the time. Let's be partners in this. You help my guys and we'll do it. And all of this stuff started happening, you guys. So let me share with you now some pictures, okay? So kind of give you an idea. So this is our foundation. It's called All for One. As you can see right here in this is Jeff, a friend and a mentor of mine. We have the foundation together that you see right behind us. That's in Sierra Leone. We built that a couple years ago. We're finishing that project. We do right now, every single year, we do a child prosperity center where we build, it's an orphanage, it's a school, and it's a church, and it's a little mini clinic. And we build all of them. We call them child prosperity centers. We do it in third world countries because that's where we can afford to do it. Okay, you know, eventually we'll get it to US, but that's kind of like, that became a passion. And started meeting all of the guys with Ed. I mean, started meeting from Ed introduced me to Tony Robbins. Then we brought Tony to come talk to our guys. I mean, and Grant was part of the movie and started sharing the stage with Magic and all of these guys. And this is me and Ed right there. So this was when me and Ed, we were flying he just got that private jet. We were flying together. This is a few years ago, 5-6 years ago. We were flying to go see Magic Johnson. And this is a crazy stuff that I'm telling you. So I was on stage with Ed Milet's and Magic Johnson. I'm like, what the F, right? I mean, you know, like what the heck? So all of this stuff happened because I started visualizing it. I started utilizing having a mentor. See, I realized it's so much more important to have the right mentor than it is to what business to be in. See, a lot of times people think you got to be in the right business. I said, okay, yes, there's got to be a right business. There's got to be some element of it, but it's so much more important to have a mentor that has a vested interest in you, that's already succeeded and is already winning. So, and you know, that kind of shifted everything, you know. So let me share here. This is again, so me and Ed, you know, flying different places. We're putting something we're going to probably do an event in January next year. I'm super excited about that. It's going to be great. But that's my fiance right there. I'll show you a couple of pictures. That's me and Ty right there. This is, you know, he talked about buying, you know, it's crazy. Last year, let me talk about the power of investing money. Let me just talk about that because this is one of the things I learned early on. There's different good lessons here for all of you guys here.
Kash,
so when I started early on,
if you're allowed to disclose this, because sometimes I ask some crazy shit, but for the most part, can you disclose who some of your clients that you worked with in the financial world were? Is that cool or not? You're not allowed to.
Yeah. So CEO of Chevron was one of my clients. Some of the executives of Google's, and we started creating. I'll tell you this since you asked this question. I'll go there for a second. So we figured in the financial industry, how it was in the financial industry to get into it, you had to be full-time advisor to get into the financial industry. Like, for example, you couldn't say before that, you know, I'm an engineer, on the side I work at Goldman Sachs. Okay, I'm a stay-at-home mom, on the side I do Merrill Lynch. This did not exist before, okay? So people had to get into the financial industry part-time, okay? Full-time, they had to be full-time. They all had quotas. They had to sell certain amount of stuff and to not get fired. And nobody had ownership. You worked for an organization, you worked for a company, and you could not build your own agency. So we said, okay, what if we go and do the exact opposite of what everybody's doing, okay? We said, what if we can bring people on board part-time, give them no quotas, they could be here for a year, don't do anything. Basically, they get free education. And and we give them 100% ownership. They can build their own agency. They can have even their own name, their own brand. We just offer them the platform, and they can build their own financial company. We give them all the mentorships. Change the game. Okay, that element changed the game. I'm going to tell you why. So it goes into the question that Devin was asking who are some of our clients, and this is how everything happened. So then, when you look at the finance world, just if you think about it, like, back in the days, you remember back in the days, if you wanted to buy shoes, where'd you go? You went to a shoe store. If you wanted to buy TV, where'd you go? Best Buy. Now, anything you want to buy, where do you go? Amazon, right? Everybody goes to Amazon. So we said, okay, back in the days, if somebody had a lot of money, they'd go to a financial advisor. But if you didn't have a lot of money, the advisor didn't even talk to you. But also there was a problem because financial advisors were all driven by quotas. So that's why I always tell people, if you tell me who your financial advisor is, I'll tell you exactly what product you have. So, so I would tell people, be like, as a matter of fact, if you have a financial advisor, this became our motto, Devin. So we were like, if you have a financial advisor, what that really means, we need to talk because we can help you. I can guarantee you we can help you if you have an advisor.
Well, we have financial advisors on here, Kash. So tread lightly, my friend.
Okay, I'll do it, but I'm being honest though. I'm being authentic right here. And everybody who's an advisor will tell you the same exact thing. So the financial advising is driven by quota. I mean, if anybody's here, you can speak, okay? So it was like, I knew if they were like at Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and those companies, they charge 1% on money management and they manage the money. That was kind of their thing. If they worked at, like say, New York Life or Mass Mutual, and these companies, they were driven by, their quota was driven by insurance policies and annuities. So they would drive whole life and things like this. So what happened though, if you had a lot of money, you go to an advisor. If you wanted insurance, you go to an insurance guy. If you wanted to fix your credit, Devin, you go to a credit guy. If you want to get out of debt, you go to a debt settlement guy. If you want to set up a trust, you go to a trust guy, okay? If you wanted to, everything, you would go to a different person. We said, okay, this was just the idea. So we said, look, why don't we just create a platform where we can offer the education on every one of these things for free? We can teach people about credit. We can teach people about debt at no cost to the consumer. We can just adding so much value, advising, insurance, long-term care, retirement planning, college planning. So we started creating a series, Devin. We do classes every Saturday, 10 to 12 California time. We do a class on this stuff. So we started doing education. And all we did, we do the education, we connect them to financial companies like the Vanguards and financial companies, and they pay us, and that's how we get paid. Therefore, it's a free service for us. So the reason I'm sharing this, Devin, is because to answer your question, we figured out, and this is what you got to figure out, a niche in your industry, like something you do that's different. So we started building something called the revenue sharing partners in the financial world, which nobody really did it before. So let me explain what that means. So before, because you have to be full-time in the industry, there was no such a thing as a referral fee, okay? Devin talked about networking and things like this, so I want to give you an idea on networking. So we said, okay, everybody has a goal. Everybody has a vision. What can we do to help people achieve their vision? So we help them achieve their vision. They help us get our goals. So it's not about us, it's about them. So we created these partnerships. Like, I'm giving you an idea. So I'm meeting right now, right after this meeting, Devin, I'm meeting with a big pastor. He's coming down here. He's a Hollywood pastor. He's a lot of big celebrities that this. He works with Oprah Winfrey. He works with a lot of these celebrities. If you Google his name will come up.
I'll be on that call with you too. So.
Okay, so we figured a way. So when I talk to pastors, I say, Pastor, what's your biggest problem at church? Now, if I'm talking to a pastor, what's every pastor says? Raising money, right? Every pastor wants to raise money. I say, Pastor, how about if I raise you $200,000 over the weekend? He's like, what do you have in mind? I said, okay, we get one of your staff certified. We offered all of these free financial courses. Now, one of their staff just was certified. They were not a financial guy. Right? They just had a certification. They didn't need to know anything. They just had to get a certification. And we offered all of these free financial classes. The pastor sends their people to go to these financial classes. They can book an appointment with one of our agents. Agents gets a free clients. They make half of the money. Half of the money goes to the church. Change the game with us. We started partnering up with real estate agents. We started partnering up with mortgage brokers. When mortgage guys did somebody's mortgage, they just looked at their finances and were like, okay, you qualify for a mortgage. And that's all they looked at. We showed them a way. We're like, look, just so you know, if you refer this client with us, in some cases, you're going to make a lot more money just referring it to us than you closing the loan. So we showed them by this revenue sharing partner, Devin. I'll give you one last story. As we were making this movie, Think and Grow Rich, there was this girl who was putting makeup on everybody. I said, hey, what's one of your goals? She's like, I want to have my own clothing line. I need about $250,000. I said, what else do you do? She's like, I throw fashion shows. I had a pre-Oscar fashion show party, and we had 1,500 people at my fashion show party. So watch this. So I'm like, how about if I help you come up with the 250 so you can start your own clothing company? She's like, what do you have in mind? Now, this lady doesn't know anything about money. She doesn't know what a stock is. She doesn't know what a fund is, nothing, okay? I said, okay, let's do this fashion show together. So we did a fashion show that been called Woman, Wealth, and Fashion. Empowering women. Now, how hard is it to invite ladies to come to a fashion show, everybody? So we started doing fashion shows, fashion and money. So nobody's ever done this before, okay? And then, so we got the ladies certified. We did the fashion show. We had 1,000 people show up. And now we do them online, virtually too. Ladies come up and we talk about woman empowerment. You got to know about money. If you want to know more, fill out a card, you know? And then there's a fashion show. We give the cards to our agents, free lead gen for our guys. So clients become the easiest part of what we do. This is how we were able to grow our business drastically and do the stuff that we were doing to be able to meet all of these guys. So, for example, this pastor that's coming in right now, we're putting a program together where he's going to take it to multiple. We've taken all the principles of Bible, and then this is literally what we're doing right now, and all these money principles, and we're putting a course together and we're taking them to churches. That it's going to really help him raise a lot of money for his church. And we're going to be able to help people and make a difference for a lot of people. They don't have to have a lot of money. So to answer your question, that's kind of like what we did. I don't even know how I went there, but
no, I asked how the people that you worked with, and man, I'll tell you, as you're talking about all the different, like you mentioned, what makes what you do different? How are you going to stand out in your market? Right? You also mentioned, remember guys, we were talking about hosting events, open houses, right? This guy's in the financial space. There's financial people on this call right now, right? It doesn't matter if you're a part of his company or whatever. Like you could have did some type of event. And by the way, what is he also doing? This is one thing that I want you guys to understand, whatever niche you're in, IT, insurance, he's giving out free information strategically. I turned it into a course. I did these training videos. And every time you give out, if your stuff is good, people will want to do business with you. So everything that he just talked about, hey, how do I have pastors, one of their biggest problems that I need to help them solve. I had a one-on-one coaching call with or two today before this, and I've had some calls with some of you guys where I talked about what are the pain points for the people that you're trying to help. They identified an opportunity to help pastors whose churches help hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, right? So identify the pain points. Think outside the box. Give free content, free information out. This is all things that you could be doing for your business. And I don't want you guys to be so narrow-minded to where it's like, well, he's talking about financials. How is that going to relate to my business? This relates to everything. So I don't want you guys to miss these keys that he's talking about right now, because it could change your business and the way you think about things.
Absolutely, because you have to understand. I found out this from Ed, that when you're trying to be different, you're going to be controversial and people are going to talk crap about you, and you got to welcome it. Okay. If nobody's talking about crap about you, that means you're not doing shit. Excuse my language. So, and that's really the idea behind it, because think about any new idea. Think about Uber for a second. Can you think about Uber? The first time, think about this. All your life, your parents told you do not talk to strangers. All your life. Now we get into strangers' cars and we go strange places. We have no clue where we're going. Remember the first time you saw the app Uber? You're like, I'm not gonna, it's weird. Okay, it was weird. What, for example, in the financial world, what we do is weird. We bring people part-time. They don't know jack about money, and we bring them in and they help people with money. But we found out a single mom wants to listen to a single mom a lot more. A cop to a cop, a pastor to a pastor. So people were like, oh, is this a multi-level? I'm like, they start talking crap about us. I'm like, dude, you just don't even get the vision where we're going right now. You understand? And it just, we boom, started doing things like this. Everybody see Ed is like, Ed, how are you making 25 million a year? You don't have an office. So it was just these little things that we put together that was different than everybody else. And people talk crap about it. But you know, but you know what you stand for. And that's fine. You know, when people, somebody, people talk, when somebody says something, I always, the first thing I say, look, I Googled your name and nothing came up, because when you don't do anything, nobody talks about you. And if you look at it, if you're really doing, anybody who's doing anything, when you look at them online, somebody's saying good stuff, somebody's saying bad stuff. Because you got to be a little bit different, and you got to be okay with it. If you just want to, you can't just follow the status quo. I learned this from the guy who just, the owner of Venetian Hotel. He said, you remember he just passed away? He said, if you want to become big, you have to change the status quo. You got to find out how everybody's doing it, and then you got to do it the exact opposite way of how everybody else is doing it in your industry. Listen to your mentors, but you got to do a little bit of niche that's different about you. So that's what Devin's talking about. That's what I'm trying to portray here. Okay, that it's we do it different. It's different. Who offers these free financial class for free? Like, people can learn, and we give them so much value. They never been sold. I tell people, if you're a plumber, you need to teach people how they never need a plumber, how they never need you. And when you do that, people come to you because they see you as an expert. That's what we do in our financial classes.
And you held, or whoever held, free classes, every weekend? Or it was like a reoccurring day, right? To where they always knew the free classes are this time, this day.
Yeah, we did free classes every Saturday. We do a class. Any of you guys wanted to know, let me know. It's just free classes. You learn about anything and everything. You learn about credit. You learn about investing. You learn about market, all this stuff. And the reason I told you this, because I wanted to, here's how I remember my original point, why I went there. Because when I came to, first I started learning about money. And, I'm Persian, right? So Persians drive nice cars. I live in Orange County. So at the time, I was making $65,000 a year, and I was driving a $55,000 car. Okay. And I thought I was cool. And until I met my mentor says, like, Cash, how much you paying for that car? And I told him, well, I pay this much a month. So then he takes a little calculator, financial calculator. This is what he did. So he goes to a compound interest calculator.
Compound interest. I don't know if you need to delete that.
That was Steve Siebold. I was going to show you something on not Steve. So he goes to this calculator. He says, Cash, if you take that car payment, I was paying about $1,000 a month, which is $12,000 a year. He says, Cash, if you start investing that car payment you were putting, you let it grow for 30 years, and you're getting 10% on it, that'll be $2 million. And I'm like, hold on. Are you telling me my car is costing me $2 million? He's like, yep, that's exactly what I'm telling you. I'm like, what the, right? I'm like, I hate this car. So guess what I did immediately? I got rid of the car. I bought this Toyota, 1997 Toyota Corolla. And I started not caring what other people think about me. This is one of the biggest lessons when I learned. And this is how we bought all these companies. This is what I want to tell you. But I learned the most important thing about money. I got to read the rules of the money, and I got to learn how to create a habit of investing. So I heard when it comes to going to the gym, what's the most important part? What's the hardest part of going to the gym? Going to the gym, right? So when it comes to investing, it's the same thing. It's like you start investing when you're broke, when you don't have any money, not when you have a lot of money. I started putting $1,000 a month. Then even when I went, you guys, even when I was homeless, I was living in my office, I still saved every single month $100 a month. I always kept my habit. When I started keeping this habit, when I started making more money, guess what I did? Because constantly my mentors told me, don't increase your lifestyle. Don't go buy a bunch of stuff. Don't go buy a bunch of stuff. Invest, invest, invest. Don't go buy fancy cars. Don't go put it on social media and da da da. My mentor said, Cash, do you want to become wealthy? I remember this meeting specifically. There was a bunch of us. He said, look, how many of you guys want to become wealthy? Everybody raised their hand. He's like, BS. You guys don't want to become wealthy. You want to have a bunch of stuff. Therefore, you never become wealthy. And I'm like, okay, no, I really want to become wealthy. So you guys, I lived in an apartment and invested. And I still, by the way, live in an apartment. I have rental properties, but I still live in an apartment. I kept my expenses so low. And I started investing from $1,000 a month to 5,000 to 10,000 to 20 to 30 to 40 and on. So, and I was, this is while I was driving the Toyota, by the way. And people were like, what the F? Like, they were like, if you're making so much money, why are you driving this? And I would show up my bank account. I'd be like, look, I just invested $40,000 last month. How much did you save last month? They're like, and they had this fancy car in the front. They're like, I want to invest $500 a month. You know, like, and these are grown up people. And this is, by the way, I learned this from Ed. This is by the time I was 33, you guys, I invested enough money that all my expenses, everything plus some, plus all my assistants, all that stuff, just from the interest of the money that I invested gets paid. This is 7 years ago. And I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. And I started learning how to invest tax-free. I started learning about private placement and how you can invest tax-free. So I started doing all the stuff we taught. I started doing it. I said, Ed, what are you doing? I'm going to do that. And then the right opportunities came in. Now, when Corona happened, all these brands were going bankrupt. Okay. Pier 1 was going bankrupt because they had too many things. Radio Shack was going bankrupt because they had too many, they had all these stores and all of these different model, all of this stuff. So Ty, and now there's we have a bunch of investors, but back then there was like, nope, really, there was like 5 of us. So we said, okay, well, why don't we just put some money together? And I said, okay, I got the money. I'm like, I can put up the money. So we started putting up the money, Ty and Alex and these guys putting some money. We start going. When everybody's panicking, we were partying, everybody. So when Corona happened, the beginning, everybody was panicking. It was like the best parties we had. We bought Radio Shack. We bought Pier 1. We bought Model. We bought Linens and Things. We started buying these big brands. We just bought another big brand. We're negotiating another. We started buying all of these pennies on a dollar, big brands. I had buddies that used to work at Radio Shack that used to make fun of me when I started my business. You understand what I'm saying? They used to make fun of me, like, Cash does this financial thing. Yeah, you want to be a multi-millionaire. Now we freaking own the company that the guy was a manager in. Because, so this is, when you start applying this stuff, everything can change. When you start listening to Devin coaching, you start listening to coaches, you start being coachable, you start applying this principle, you don't give into the noise, you start focusing, you start going in and you be like, all right, I'm going to do this, do or die. I'm not going to be focusing on anything. I'm going to have a niche. I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to focus on adding value to consumers over and over and over and over and over. The basic stuff. So Tony Robbins talks about this, that he says, satisfied customers always leave. Satisfied customers leave, but a crazy fan never leaves. So you want to create crazy fans that just love the thing, craving fans, that they just love your stuff. They swear by it. They're like, man, I got so much value. Nobody ever taught me this much stuff. Nobody ever gave me this stuff. So we started applying that stuff, Devin. We started applying that stuff. And then, a few years later, I remember this one day, I was driving to go see Ed and on Ritz-Carlton. It was the same exact Ritz-Carlton. It was the same exact Ritz-Carlton that, and I'm going to show you this little quick video. It will give you an idea that I went to, then I got those nights. Because I remember Ed called me. He's like, hey, let's have a meeting. I'm like, where do you want to meet? He's like, let's meet at Ritz-Carlton. So I'm driving through Ritz-Carlton. And it was crazy. It was one of my aha moments. As I was driving right there, I was driving the same exact car that I had in my dream board when I was completely broke and I was in there. And I just came back from Africa on that All for One charity that we put on that board. Okay. And I was having a meeting with Ed, and I just finished a meeting with Steve Siebold, which I'm going to show you, which is the guy I was reading his book Okay. And let me show you this. I think it's right here. All right, here we go. So watch. This is Steve Siebold.
Self-made millionaire Steve Siebold says anyone can hit life's jackpot.
Steve Siebold is a world-class expert on mental toughness training for...
I just want you guys to imagine who this guy is. And I only know him as a mentor in a book. Okay? Because he says something on the back of this. And I think there's value there, Devin. So
increasing sales, developing people, and managing change. He's a best-selling author and popular television interview guest on mental toughness for building wealth, getting fit, and excelling in sports.
How does a rich person look at money? What do they see? They see lots of it. And just available out there in the universe?
It's everywhere, especially with the recession. We have total chaos in the economy all over the world economy.
They see opportunity.
They see opportunity because there's all these problems. Because where there's chaos, there's opportunity to solve problems, to make money.
Someone said that the rich, having made a lot of money last year in the stock market and maybe some money in the housing market, the rich have an obligation to spend that money to help the economy. And you say,
why? Why are they obligated? I mean, these people didn't make their money robbing banks. They made their money solving problems.
because it would be good for the economy.
So is solving problems. I mean, do people want their problems solved or not? If they want their problems solved, you're going to have to look to the innovators.
Hi, I'm Steve Siebold.
So watch this. So he talks about this.
Sucker.
So this is, I'll tell you this story, but let me.
Financially millionaires since financially as the result of being financial. Hi, this is Steve Siebold, and I've been interviewing self-made millionaires since 1984. I'm going to give you some advice based on 35 years of interviewing some of the wealthiest people in the world. One of their biggest secrets that they don't talk about to the press typically, but they've told me in personal interviews over all these years, is that mentorship was the key to their financial success. Okay, you're about to have that chance. Imagine yourself being financially free, never having to worry about money another day in your life, being able to go where you want to go, with whom you want to go, for as long as you want to go, without ever having to answer to anyone else for the rest of your life. That takes money. That takes wealth. Kash Rastan is a guy that can help you do that. I knew Kash back in the days when he was just struggling building his business, and I've watched him develop an unbelievable team, one of the best I've ever seen in the world, and I've seen most.
So anyway, but the reason I shared that with you, because that was a guy in a book. And guess what happened? We started doing events together, Devin. Now that guy you see, he worth a couple $100 million. Then I shared him our vision of what we want to do in finance. We said we want to revolutionize the way financial information is getting distributed. The financial industry is shrinking. And guess what happened, Devin? He became a partner in the financial company. So he's like, man, I have a lot of followers. They need to know money. So he literally wrote a book on money, and we started doing events together.
Now, disclosure, when you write down all this stuff, right? You know, like the famous quote from Jim Carrey, right? You don't just write this shit down and then sit and eat a ham sandwich on your couch, right? You didn't just think about this stuff and sit there and be like, oh, think and grow rich. Let me manifest it and hope that this all comes to my plate. You backed it up with energy, relentless energy and effort and thought, right? You know, I want to make sure, I'm assuming everybody does understand that, but I cannot listen to this without reframing it to you guys and know that, listen, this all works, but you have to back it up with the energy and the effort and going after it every single day and thinking about it and writing it down and having the pictures every single day. So I just felt like that was important. You know what I mean? Because, you know, it's so many people have these big visions and stuff, and then they blame everybody why they didn't get there, and they thought about it, and, you know, they're not real with themselves. Are you really putting in the effort and listening to the people that are telling you the things that you can do to get there? And a lot of times, you know, the answer is no.
That's 100%. So anyway, I just hope that was kind of like this story. Devin wanted me to kind of share that stuff. But I think, you know what would help, Devin, if you do some, maybe you ask me some questions, Q&A. I'm very good at anything team building, mindset stuff, doing things like this. Yeah.
You said it, team building, right? Because somebody hit me up, Jeff. I believe maybe on the last call. And listen, at the end of the day, there's business owners that are looking to, they need to hire the right people to grow through people and leverage and get leaders in their company, right? So what tips and what have you learned about building the right team around you, finding the right people? How do you know who's the right person that fits your vision, that is in alignment with you? If you can go on about that. And by the way, guys, if you have another question, please put it in the chat if you have specific questions.
Yes, perfect. So great question. And I'll put, let me put my, I'll put my Instagram there. If you didn't get a chance to do your question now, you can reach out to me there. But to answer this question, the first thing was that you have to treat, when you talk to people, you can't really talk to people about where you are. You have to talk about where you're going. So the guys that I was talking to at the time, they were already making $250,000 a year. Okay. But when I was bringing them on board, I was homeless. Okay. So I was recruiting these guys that were making 250,000 and I was living in my office. So how was I recruiting those guys? Okay. And I was bringing them on because I learned this from Ed. You know, so think about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, when he was completely broke and he was in his garage, working out of his garage, he called Scully, which was the CEO of Pepsi-Cola. Scully worth millions of dollars at the time. Steve Jobs didn't worth really that much money. He calls Scully on the phone and he leave a message for him. He says, hey, if you want to keep selling sugar waters to teenagers, keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to go change the world, give me a call. And he hangs up on Scully because he was talking about where he was going. You understand? How do you think we brought, like I talked to this guy, Steve, who's worth 200 million. You know, I was just talking to another guy who's in Arate with us, and he has a credit repair company. He does about 5 million nets. He makes 5 million a year. Devin.
Brad, my boy Brad. I know he does credit repair.
No, he does. Is Alex. So he's in Florida. I'm gonna go see him there. So and they do about 550 clients a month. So I talked to him. I said, bro, yes, you're making 5 million, but imagine but you're only offering credit. Imagine if Amazon only decided to sell books and never expand to anything else. I'm like, we want to go to 100 million. So you got to talk about to people, not where you are, but where you want to be. Okay. So when you're recruiting, you got to really, that's a good point. Not where you are. You're like, hey, here's where we're going. Okay. You sell it where you're going, exactly what you really believe. Then you can kind of bring it to their level. Number one. Number two is you always recruit and you talents and people based on character. So we never brought anybody on board. We never did an ad. We never did anything. So the only way we grew our business was through referrals. Like if I know Devin, I said, Devin, who do you know? Devin introduced me, because honesty, integrity, these kind of things, nobody can put it on a resume. So I figured out, instead of doing it this way, instead of doing that way, I'm going to do it through relationships where we know somebody already there. Now it's number two. Number three, so for example, in my business, for example, nobody works for us. We all partners. I said, look, my goal is for you to make more money than me. Okay. That's the goal. We created a model where they can come in and they can make more money. So whatever company you have, can the person comes in make more money than you? Okay. Because that's how you're going to get the studs. Not everybody, but the studs they want to be the man. They want to make more money than you. They want to be number one. They want to make 7 and 8 figure incomes, right? So you got to have the opportunity for them to be able to come in, whether it's partnership or equity in the company, whatever it is, you got to treat them like that. And you got to have a family environment. Like, for example, I'm getting married in December, and all my groomsmen and all my best man, all of them are from the business. All my best friends, we work together. It's a family environment. And we wanted to create an environment where people can have fun. They can have a blast. They can have their family. We have a kids room in our office. People bring their kids. You know, people come to our business a lot of times because they're like, man, I like, how do you guys have your kids here at the office all the time? And how do you guys have fun? We have a foosball table, we have a ping pong table, all of this stuff at our office. So when people are done with their jobs, they like in like a lot of our guys are part-time, they after they work, come to our office just to hang out.
Yeah,
Okay.
That is so crucial what you were saying, because for those that are part of the Deep Roots community, we were speaking on this yesterday about the culture and the family atmosphere and how to be better leaders. And by the way, virtual leadership, right? Virtual leadership, very important. And exactly what he's hitting on, like treating people like family, letting them know you're there, supporting them. But also, you know, you did mention, I'm trying to remember what you said. Oh, dude, I'm drawing a blank right now. But, damn, whatever. Well, team building. Hold on, I'm trying to think here. I don't know. I'm an idiot right now.
So, you know, I was basically talking about
it was like
how important it is to build that culture of fun in your organization, so people really have fun.
It hit me. And we were talking about this yesterday, is people are looking for leaders to hire in their companies. Or guys, when you're being an influence and you're marketing your company, right? You're trying to get people to use you. If you're trying to hire the right people, or you're trying to bring people in your organization or recruit, you have to, exactly what Kash is saying, you know, you got to share the vision with people. There are people in your company right now and you're like, well, why aren't they producing? Why aren't my leaders producing? Did you cast a vision on where you want your company to go? And are they even excited about it? Most people don't do that. And they wonder why their people aren't excited about it, because they don't know, why do I do all this? Listen, you know, because what? Maybe their salary they're not excited about. Maybe you should have a different compensation plan to where, hey, the more they do, the more business they do, the more money they can make. I don't know, but the bottom line is you have to create a world big enough for them to fit their world in. That's the bottom line. So, and that's casting that vision that Kash is talking about. The realtors in my organization, I always say, and to your point, Kash, listen, they're all family. They're my partners, right? And I cast that vision. Listen, our next checkpoint is $100 million producing real estate company, because you can go out and market and leverage that to get more clients, because there's not many people out there that say that their company, their team, their organization does $100 million in sales, right? And it's about them. It's about using these things to go out and make as much money as you possibly want. And by the way, I'm only here to support you and push you and be there for you. And by the way, obviously help you with more business. But for the most part, that stuff where you show up, even in their personal life, right? Most leaders don't do that. They're afraid to even dig into that. That's what keeps people loyal to you.
Yeah, we dig in, you guys. So the name of our organization is called Wealth Builders, and there's 4 cornerstones in being a wealth builder. One corner of it is money and attracting it to yourself. The second corner is leadership. We teach them leadership, sales, marketing, communication. The other cornerstone is entrepreneurship. And the last cornerstone is happiness. So we do classes on relationship, for example, for our guys. So our guys come in, we actually show them how to have a happier relationship, how to have a happier, more fulfilling relationships. We constantly do seminars like this. We constantly do seminars on personal development. We get it. So we get into their lives. So if we're coaching them, we're coaching them on every area, relationship, on health, on every area we want them to do better. So you want to have you do want to get involved, get to know them, love them, care for them, those kind of things, and have a structure that they could be you. Okay, so in our business, we have a structure they could be you. They have an incentive. It's like almost like a franchise. They come into our organization, but if they want to become a broker, they become a broker. They get the same contract as we do, but we still get a little percentage, not from their pocket, from the product providers that we work with. We get so they have the same opportunity. They're not below us. They're the same. We're same level. Okay, so creating that kind of an opportunity in your business, and then providing the mentorship and the coaching and really getting to know them, love them, care for them, get to know their families, their kids, those kind of things is a big deal.
Your people in your organization are your clients. That is a huge mind shift for your leadership. Let's go to, so I know Ernie, he's a chiropractor. He asks any good team building exercises. I think Kash just hit on them. is doing exercises based off of their personal goals, you know, all that stuff. But Bill has a question right after.
I'll tell you on that. Let me tell you two things. One thing we do, you guys, so you want to be a cause driven. So just so you guys know, every client we help in our business, we sponsor one child in Africa on one of our orphanages. So people know, and we celebrate that. Every time we help a family, we don't say, hey, we just got a client or so and so make this much commission. We're like, you guys, we just changed another life. We're sponsoring another kid. We changed another life. We're sponsoring another kid. And we have pictures of these kids that we have going to our schools. So it really becomes cause driven. So when we set up goals for a month, we're like, we want to help 2,000 families because we're going to sponsor 2,000 kids. People get behind it. People get behind that cause. And to do that, who was asking about team building exercises?
That's Ernie. I think he had an appointment, but this is recorded, so he'll be able to hear it. No, he may still be on, but continue on because we have a question right after that. I want to respect your time. We're coming to the end.
Yeah. So as far as we take our leadership, you know, and we take him different places. You know, that's kind of how we put our code of honor together, for example. So we do a lot of team building exercises. There's always a competition. There's always some kind of a fun. It's like, we do the craziest fun thing. It's not work. It's like living. So this is what we teach our guys, that like, if you're not living, it's not worth it. If it's a job, our guys don't do a job. We live. And this life needs to be fun, because if you don't have fun with it, you're going to get bored out of it and then you're going to quit. So we're creating a lot of fun, a lot of competition, like a fun competitions. So let's go to the next question. So you want to read the questions to me?
Next question is from Bill. Mr. Webb just started his Saratoga Benefits Company. What are the non-negotiables? Do you have a daily, weekly routine? And if so, what are the non-negotiables? I love that term, Bill. Good stuff.
Yes.
That you make sure to get done every day/week.
Yep. So every day. So I'm a guy that when I wake up in the morning, my mind's not right. Okay. Like I'm not the most positive, excited guy, right? I'm like, I want to do the snooze, that kind of me. So I have to train myself. So I have a very exact routine. The moment I wake up, I literally, this is like my alarm clock is Bob Proctor. So if you guys, again, those of you guys who know Bob Proctor, he talks about he has a video called You Were Born Rich. So the moment I wake up with the sound of Bob Proctor, where he just talks about your goals and imagining it and seeing it and visualizing it. As I'm literally getting ready, that's what I listen. That's a non-negotiable. And then every day, right after that, I do 10 pages of a book. So right now I'm reading a book, for example, it's called Golf is Not a Game of Perfect, which is unbelievable book. So it's just Life is Not a Game of Perfect. So I'm reading that book. So I read that and then I exercise. So and by the way, if there's any, I'll give you a quick tip if we should add more time. Anytime if you want to be addicted to a certain behavior, you cannot do it through willpower. You have to look at your you guys know the 6 human needs. Tony Robbins talks about 6 human needs. You have to attach over 3 human needs to one behavior to make it an attractive behavior. Wow. Okay. If you want to get something that you're attracted to, that you do it every day, you got to attach 3 human needs. Like if I give you an example, so if I go on my Instagram page, if I go in here to see, can I see my videos here? I don't even know. Is this how you see the videos?
I never go on Instagram on desktop, to be honest. It looks like on desktop.
On your cell phone, you go in there, it shows you your stories.
Maybe click on that. No.
Yes, I am clicking on it, but it's not working. Okay, I was going to show you this because it's something that I put on there every single day on my stories. I'll just give you this last example. I want to be fit. So I said, okay, if I want to be fit, I got to attach 3 human needs to it. So I said, okay, what's one human need? One human need is growth. So if I'm working out, am I growing? Yes or no? Yes. So I make sure every day I push. So there's growth. Significance, getting significance, like you look good, you feel good. There's a significance need you can meet. You can meet love and connection. So love it, like you look at yourself in the mirror, you know, like, okay, I'm improving, I'm becoming better. That's love and connection. But another thing that was so big for me, which is a big driver for me, is contribution. So, you know, what drives me to get fit is contribution. And the way I do this is I always post a picture when I'm running on Instagram. That's what I was going to show you. I put this picture of me running. And the reason I do it, not only I hold myself accountable, but every time I do it, I'm like, somebody's going to look at this and somebody's going to be like, okay, I need to go run too. I need to go do something. I need to go move my body. So it's in a way of contribution. So now I have 4 things attached to one need, to one activity, and it becomes addictive. So guess what? I'm addicted to working out. So these are like the things that I do on a routine basis. So good question.
So, and then we'll cap it off with, we got Andrew. It said, how long was it from when you started writing on your goal card that you wanted to earn $50K a month to the point where you made $73K in a month?
Yeah, it was, you wouldn't believe it, but it was 2 months. Literally a matter of 2 months, it happened.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, you were in a space to where you could make that, right? So
yeah, that was also, I was also in a space. That was like how I actually became one of the clients, which was the CEO of that Chevron. That's how he, for example, became a client that month.
Yeah. So based off of what he's saying, if you're in a position right now, and I get brutally honest with you guys in this community, which is why we're having so many breakthroughs. But if you're in a position right now, in an occupation right now, and you know there's more out of life that you want, and within that occupation you have right now, you cannot make that, then you need to rethink what space you need to be in order to get to where you truly want to get to. Right? Because I know that there's people in our community, because we're coming up to 100 members, which I'm pumped up about. There's people in our community that aren't in the space that they truly want to be in, which is fine. And it's great that you understand that now and not live your life in regret. But just understand that, hey, that doesn't happen for if you're not in a space where you can't make that money and you're not in a commission job or whatever that is, well, you know, don't be coming to us 2 months down the road and be like, I didn't make that $73,000. I wrote that shit on a card. Like, no, it doesn't work that way.
That is such a big deal. He said, Warren Buffett said, whatever is your passion, you do it as a hobby. Whatever there is a need for in business, you do it as business. So when I started learning that stuff, that's because finances wasn't my passion, just so you guys know. It was never my passion. Like I loved coaching. I loved buying companies. I like real estate. That was my passion. But this became a vehicle because I had mentors. And for those of you guys that Devin's talking about, if you guys want that environment, we have that environment. We figured out there was 5 reasons people don't start a business. Number 1, they don't have the money. Number 2, they don't have the time. Number 3, there's not enough need for their services. They don't know how to do it. Last thing, they don't want to take the risk. So we created a model that people can have their own business, getting rid of all those 5 things. So in our business, they have no cost in business wise. So those of you guys, those of them who actually want to learn that stuff, let us know. We help you. That's what drives me. Like right now, that's the only thing drives me. Making money does not drive me anymore. But seeing people crying and going from being broke to becoming wealthy to making money, that's just what drives the heck out of me. Like that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm here on this call. That's why I do this stuff, because it just changes people's lives. So, and any of you guys, if you have any question about any of this stuff, reach out to me on Instagram, just whatever about your business. I don't care. If you want to learn about money, let us know. If you want any of that stuff, let us know. If you completely unrelated, doesn't matter. Reach out. So,
well, listen, this is the caliber of people, and I don't want you guys to take this for granted. We get some pretty damn amazing speakers. So don't just let this call go to your wayside and not take action on what you're learning. I am very specific with the people that I bring in here. You know how many people reach out to me weekly? Could I speak to your community? And I'm like, no, because you're not at that caliber to where I want you speaking to my community, because I'm bringing high-level entrepreneurs in this country, and because I care about you guys, and I want to make sure that you're getting top-notch, high-performance content. So please don't take it for granted. I would give him a follow, and just take action on some of this stuff that he said. There was a lot. I know it's overwhelming. Start off with 2 things. You know, start simple, start small, and then once you build that habit, you know, and the most important thing that I want you also to take from this, guys, is to see his pattern of execution. And the best word that I've heard is coachability. Are you coachable? And I'm always working on that. I'm still trying to always, and I'm never going to stop being coachable. You know, that's the bottom. It doesn't matter where I get to because there's always higher levels. And that's where a lot of people right now on the outside looking in, seeing all these testimonials we're putting out from the people in the harvest, their biggest roadblock is themselves because they overvalue where they're at right now and they undervalue if they plugged in and they were coachable where they can get to with the right help. And that's not any single one of you people on here, but just take action. Learn from what Kash has said, what he's done, and visualize it. Write down your vision boards and really think about what you truly want and make it a non-negotiable to say, this is what I truly want. And make sure you're in a field or in a path or in a space that can get you there. Kash, thank you so much, my friend. I am forever grateful you took the time to do this and speak with our community, my brother. Listen, I will plant the seed in your head, my friend, and you're damn right I'm going to say it. I am envisioning myself being on the stage with you and Ed at one point, but also on top of that, please put it in Ed's head that I want him to be a guest speaker one way or another here, my friend. I will put it out there. I will plant that seed. And one day I want you to be like, yo, listen, he said he'd give you a half hour of his time. Bring him on, my friend. Because
let's do it, bro. So thanks for having me on, you guys. I
right,
appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. Love you, brother. I'll talk to you guys
Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Kash.
Bye.
Thanks, Dev. Thanks, Kash.